Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Gran Turismo 7 Daily Race Race and Strategy Guide. This week we're off to Watkins Glen International Full Course, and for the third week in a row we are in the Group 3 machinery. Obviously PD are looking to maybe pick up a little bit more information on the BOP that was changed after update 1.31, which is in a fairly good place at the moment, but there's definitely some nips and tucks needed on a few cars. I'm looking at you Supra top end. But the race details for this one are going to be 12 laps. We've got tyre wear at times 6, fuel at times 2, just the racing hard tyres available. There's no mandatory rules in terms of pit stops or tyres. BOP is on, damage is light, it's a rolling start, and slipstream is real. So on the face of it, looking at these settings, it looks like a pretty simple race. And to be fair, it is a fairly simple race, but there's a little bit more to this one than you might first expect when we come to looking at the strategy. Before we get to the strategy, let's just have a little discussion on car choice for this track. Now, I've not had the chance to really do a whole lot of testing, but the current sort of meta cars, as we experienced after the update around Dragon Trail Seaside in reverse, is the Supra, the BMW M6 and the Nissan GTR from 2018. And I don't think it's going to be too much different around Watkins Glen. The Supra is going to be very good at this first sector as we come up the hill towards the chicane, but after that I think the BMW M6 and the Nissan GTR will be a better car through the twisty section. But I do expect those three cars to be at the very least competitive around here. Hopefully there'll be some more cars that also come to the fore. I used the Toyota FT1 as the test car for the strategy because really the car doesn't really matter. We're here to look at the tyre wear and see what impact that's going to have on the strategy, if any. And to be fair, the Toyota FT1 felt pretty nice around here, I must say. And as you're about to find out, whilst you want to have a fast car, there is going to be another factor to this race that might well be important, and that is going to be the tyre wear, because as we jump to lap 12 here, you can see that whilst tyre wear might not be an issue to get to the end of the race, it is definitely going to be a factor. That front left is pretty well worn now, maybe about 35% left on the tread. The left rear maybe about 40%. Lots of very fast right hand corners here, so lots of stress getting put through the left hand tyres. But yeah, it did quite surprise me just how much tyre wear there was on the hard tyres with times 6 tyre wear, and it's definitely going to play a factor depending on what input device you're using, whether you're on the wheel or the pad, and it's definitely going to have a factor because lap times are going to drop off in the second half of the race. So those drivers that are better at looking after tyres, those cars that are better at looking after tyres, are going to be probably in a little bit of an advantageous position as we come towards the end of the race. So the tyres held up fairly well up to around about lap 7, maybe lap 6. We're in the 47s fairly comfortably. Then they just start to drop off maybe around about half a second as you get to that midpoint of the race in the second third of the race, and then by the end of the race, the last 3-4 laps, the lap times are starting to drop off a little bit more severely into the high 48. So, you know, around about a second, 1.2 seconds a lap slower for the last few laps. And as I said, if you are good on the tyres, then you're going to be an advantage at this point. And that could well lead to some fairly interesting racing towards the end of this one as drivers start to struggle on the tyres, lap times start to drop off, and those drivers are a little bit better on the tyres start to gain an advantage and put those drivers under pressure. So coming to the last corner now, we're going to come over the start finish line. As I said, tyre wear not so much an issue in terms of doing the no stop, but very much a factor. Good length of race this one as well, 21.5 minutes for, you know, a reasonable A plus driver, maybe sort of towards 22 minutes if you're A, B or C. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the strategy. You might be wondering, why are we not going to do a one stop if the tyre wears so badly? So let's just take a quick look at this pit stop just to show you why you're going to have to deal with the tyre wear rather than taking on a fresh set of tyres. So we're coming towards the pit entry, the very, very tricky pit entry at Watkins Glen, around about a second ahead of the AI car in front of us. It's probably a good thing that you don't have to make a pit stop, to be honest with you, because yeah, people pick up so many 3-second penalties at this track for crossing the white line on the entry, or it's a yellow line at this track, the yellow line on entry and exit. But yeah, we came into the pits there about 1 second ahead of the second place car. Let's see how far behind we are as we exit the pit. So this is why it takes so long to make a pit stop, because we get this very long kind of pit exit animation. So we're just about out now. What's that gap going to be? Remember, 1 second ahead of the AI cars, and it's around about, what, 20 seconds, and we're losing time all the way up the hill as well. So you're losing about 20 seconds in the pit lane. There's no way possible, but no matter how bad your tyre wear is, you're not making that time back up. Obviously fuel's no issue whatsoever as well. One thing I will say, it looks like you burn off more fuel. I think there's maybe these Group 3 cars are a bit heavier on the fuel after the update than they were before the update, because I did notice that even just the ×2 tyre wear, we burned off quite a lot of fuel over the course of the 12 laps, something like 65%, so fuel is definitely something I might take a look at in the future to see what changes that has brought with it in update 1.31. But yeah, as you can see from that, hopefully this is definitely going to be a no-stop race. You're going to have to deal with the tyre wear. If you're bad on tyres, you may not have a lot of fun around this one, particularly some of the pad players who are bad on tyres as well. You could be looking at 10% tread left towards the end of the race, which is going to put you at such a huge disadvantage. But yeah, there's no other way around it. You're going to have to deal with that tyre wear. The pit loss is just too much. There's no way you can make the time back up. There is some other factors in this race is always worth taking note of. The track limits can be very dodgy or strict, maybe the best word for it. We'll take a look at them as we do the lap guide. And this track is just a track where people spin off a lot. There's a lot of corners where it just invites you on the throttle nice and early. Remember, we've been using the soft and the medium tyres in Group 3 for the last couple of weeks, so people might be surprised now they're on the hard tyres, the lack of that rear grip. The new physics seems to make it a little bit more, you have to be a little bit more careful on the exit of corners on the throttle, so I expect to see a lot of people spinning off in this one for the first couple of days at least. So my advice to you, if you want to make up some DR, you want to get some good results early on in the week, concentrate keeping that car on the track, look after those tyres, take advantage of people burning their tyres out, spinning off the track, and you should be in good shape at least for a couple of days before people start to get on top of the combination. Let's finish off as always with a lap guide of the track in use this week. It's a Toyota FT1 around Watkins Glen. Try to say feet, Wombo, not meters, we are in America, so it's a 200 feet board into turn 1, maybe just before that very important corner. Get the car into the apex, a little bit of camber there to help you around. Don't go any wider than the red and yellow or red and orange curb, depending on how your eyes see that. Power cars are going to be at the advantage up the hill. You've got a Supra behind you here and you're not in a Supra or maybe one of the other faster cars. You're going to be vulnerable down into this chicane. Horrible when people go for overtakes here. It's the 300 or 400 or sort of between the 300 and 400 feet board for the chicane. You absolutely abuse the curbs around there. Keep a nice tight line through this long sweeping right hand corner, destroys the left hand side tyres. 200 feet board for this downhill braking zone. It invites you to get on the power nice and early, but I did find it very easy to understeer off there. It's the middle of the board. I think it's a 200 feet board for this important uphill right hander. I'd say it's best to keep it into the apex unlike we did there. It's very easy to spin on the exit of this one, as well as a little kind of, just the way the kind of track undulates, the car doesn't seem to like it very much. 200 feet board for one of the harder corners on the track, one of the tighter corners as well, tighter than you sort of first expect, easy to run wide there and pick up a penalty as well. And then the 100 feet board for again another tricky corner, so sort of the easy to spin off at this one as well. There's a kind of bump on the crest of the hill, people get on the throttle nice and early and often spin out that one. I think it's between the 100 and 200 feet board for the second to last corner, and I use that billboard behind the fence as my braking marker for the last corner. Easy to get on the throttle too early there as well and hit the wall, and if you rode over at the white line you also pick up a half-second penalty. So that's a lap of Watkins Glen in the FT1. Hopefully the video overall with all the tips and information has been useful in some way, shape or form. If it has, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button as well if you haven't already. I think it looks like a fun race. On the face of it, it looked a bit boring. It's just a sort of boring no-stopper, but the factor of the tyre wear should make it a little bit more interesting and maybe bring some different cars into the fore. Tricky track as well, you'll see a lot of people spin out, easy to pick up penalties. Yeah, there's definitely scope for some entertainment in this one. We'll definitely be live streaming this one at least 2 to 3 times over the course of the week. Do join me for them if you can. Very much like to see you in the chat. Do say hello as well, you'll find it a friendly place. And yeah, until the next one, thank you very much for watching, and I shall catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.